Well, on the line now from Lille, I am joined by Julien Talpin, who is a sociologist and a researcher at the CNRS, which is a national research institute here in France. Julien Talpin has led a research team, a team that produced a study entitled The Ordeal of Discrimination, published in 2021, and also, I think, the author of a book about what he calls the silencing of these low-income, ethnically mixed areas in France. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Talpin. I wonder if perhaps you could help us. France, is the country that invented human rights, and there is officially no discrimination in France. This is not apartheid South Africa, it's not segregation America. You say that there is a lot of unofficial discrimination. Can you give us some examples of what you found?
Absolutely. We have a number of studies now showing that discrimination and racial discrimination is a reality in French society. So there is a big discrepancy in some sense between what social science are showing and the official public discourse that still remains blind and colorblind to the existence of these discriminations, be it in the interactions between police forces and the residents of this neighborhood, in particular stop and frisks and racially discriminatory stops by the police has been shown and clearly demonstrated, and it's actually one of the roots also of what we're seeing right now. We also have a lot of discrimination on the job market. I mean, a lot of European studies show that actually France is a champion of racial discrimination on the job market, but our public policies to actually fight these kind of problems are
yes, it's actually illegal.
Limited. So it's illegal, but still, I mean, the sanctions when discrimination is actually proved are pretty limited, and actually the public money invested to educate, to train, and to eradicate this form of discrimination is clearly insufficient, and we observe over the time a reproduction of discrimination because there is a lack of political will to actually fight them.
Did you, when you were talking to people in these low-income, often ethnically diverse areas on the outskirts of Paris and other big cities, the banlieue, as we call them in France, did you have any ideas about how the relationship between the police and local people might be improved? Because a lot of approaches have been tried. When the police tried a more relaxed approach, a lot of hard-working, law-abiding, low-income, ethnically diverse people living in those neighbourhoods complained that there were drug dealers operating freely, that they felt unprotected. What is the best way to police? What did you uncover in your research?
It's a complicated question. What is clear is that right now, in these neighborhoods, residents are asking for a more, what we call proximity police in France, so actually officers that are on a daily basis in these neighborhoods and can actually build trust with the residents, trust that has disappeared over time. So there is that's one aspect. More broadly, I mean, there is an expectation of impartiality and justice. And the idea is that when there is police misconduct, police officers are not sanctioned appropriately. In the case of Nahel, that started civil unrest that we observed in the last week, the justice system moved pretty quickly, and the officers right now in prison waiting for the trial. It's pretty unusual, actually, and very often in case of police violence or deaths in interaction with the police, very often police officers are not actually prosecuted, and this actually feed a strong distrust towards the police institution. So there's a more impartial functioning of the institutions that are in charge of controlling police institutions could be also a way to rebuild this necessary trust.
You said that you felt that there was a political will lacking to solve this very long-standing problem. And yet, a lot of the time we hear here in France from people in very poor rural areas who say, well, we would like in our area some of the billions of euros which have been spent in over 10 action plans for these areas over the decades. What is not working?
Good question. First, it should be stressed that, as a matter of fact, urban policies have invested millions and billions of euros in these neighborhoods. Still, we spend less public money in these neighborhoods than in the rest of the French territory, and in particular the downtown and city centers. When it comes to public services, school, public transportation, there is some very clear studies showing that despite actually the myth that too much money is spent there, there is less euros per capita spent in this neighborhood than in other places of the territory. Then probably it could be possible to both invest in rural areas and in the French banlieue. That's obviously a matter of choice. One final point is that in the last 20 years, choices have been made to focus and to invest money on brick and mortar, on art stuff, on rebuilding the banlieue, and in particular on the housing. Probably not enough money has been spent on the social aspect, and social workers, educators, community organizations are actually lacking the funds to actually offer positive and more constructive output to the anger that we've been seeing in the last week. So probably that's part of the answer, is also putting more resources towards these actors, social workers, that could actually allow a more positive expression of these feelings of injustice.
Mr. Talpin, we just have time for one very quick answer, if you would. I wonder if you think France is unusual compared to some countries in that it does not collect statistics on people's ethnic background. And this can be problematic when it comes to looking at official data because there's no sign of people's ethnic background. Do you think the French would be better off changing that policy and collecting ethnic statistics, as they do, for example, in the US, in Britain, and many other countries?
That could be an option, and many social scientists are asking for it. As a matter of fact, despite the lack of ethnic statistics, we have plenty of studies that anyhow manage to demonstrate very clearly and undeniably the existence of racial discrimination in France. So, the problem right now is not so much about the evidence of these problems, but about the political will to actually tackle them.
Thank you very much indeed for your time today. We really do appreciate it. Julien Talpin speaking to us from Lille of the CNRS Research Institute.